So I was just watching a video with this Alex guy who I guess is my spy. And he was talking to a guy called Matt Fraser about psychic beliefs in the spirit realm and stuff. And yeah, with this guy, I think that he's definitely a fantasist. And I think a lot of things that he was saying is just completely not the truth. The idea that all your lives are playing at exactly the same time, it's completely bullshit. It's not true. Although I know why he would think such a thing, because I feel like a lot of spiritualists, when they say things, even though they're not saying things that are truth, they are connecting with truth, and there is something's truth about it. And I believe that this whole timeline is something I can time travel when I'm not in a physical form. Can I do it when when the timeline is actually playing out and when all the souls are alive? I don't know. I'm not. I don't think so. Like, it would be nice to think that when I die, I can go back into this sort of timeline, and anything that hasn't played out yet are things that I can change. But I believe that once something is played out, there is no way I can change anything. So all the changes need to be done before I press play on it. Or it might be a case of I come to Earth when the dinosaurs are here, and then try and create animals, and then just before Darla comes, or as things are evolving, I start creating the timeline based on what will happen when I finally come down. So I find the soul that is going to be most intelligent, or the first soul that's going to able to house my body, the first soul that's able to create a baby, create a fetus that can house my body, and then I do the whole timeline. And I probably am making this whole timeline whilst the play mode is still when before humans, before animals are evolved. And I don't know how long it was. How long was it between dinosaurs and Homo sapiens? Was that some say a million? I would like to know the some say it's like a million years or something. So whatever the timeline was playing out. So the timeline was the real time play was playing out as, and all the souls were just animals going through a different phase of animals. But yes, reincarnation would have been a factor on this. So I do think that all animal souls get assessed, and this is kind of what the conversation was about on this video, where this Matt Fraser was talking about. A lot of things that he says is nonsense. I don't think it's possible to live all your lives all at the same time. Why? Because how the hell would that happen? How the hell would the Matrix be able to work out? Part of being alive and thinking and learning and developing is that you change. And therefore, if you play all your lives at the same time, it means you're just as intelligent now as you were in your life when you were an Egyptian. And that's not the truth. I mean, I know a lot of people, screen keeps freezing. I know a lot of people like to believe that they can um, that people in Egyptian times were just as smart as people in this time, but that's not the truth. That's 100% not the truth. I understand that the pyramids were very hard to make, and he did make a video about that, but I really don't think that it was. I think the gravity was slightly different, which just made it easier to lift those stones. Hence why there's this deception that they were so much smarter when really they weren't. I think God had just changed. I notice that I believe that I've lived 70 timelines. And I've also noticed that 70 years is not necessarily the exact average lifespan, but it's an average lifespan. And therefore, I believe that the Earth that is traveling around the sun, it's traveled at at a specific speed at a specific time, so that it goes round 70 times before many people start dying. Some is younger, some is older, but the world's, because I think with the poverty countries in poverty who don't have access to medicine and stuff, that always lowers it and stuff. But 70 is a similar age of a lifespan, and I think this kind of is in line with how Earth, how up close Earth is. And I believe that basically that God can control the Earth and choose a distance from the sun that's going to provide enough heat. So, changing the spin is going to change the gravity, and changing the gravity is how the pyramids get made. I don't think there's any ancient secrets. I do actually believe that it was for a tomb. I do think that there was just some really evil people at the top that were like, this is no, I think it was awful. I think it was a tomb for everyone. I think it was believed to be a tomb for everyone, even if you're not buried in it. Even if you're not buried in the tomb, I think the idea was that when you die, you have to walk to this pyramid, and this is how you get to, I don't know. They had some strange belief like that. I don't think that the purpose of it was necessarily the strange belief, but I feel like my higher self wanted to make a building that was going to stand time and still be alive when I was here, and therefore um, people believed false things. People who made the pyramids believed false things, and this false information is the reason why they did it. So the reason why they did it doesn't matter, because it was all lies and it was all deception. You know, the reason why people believe in Christianity, I think, is to promote the idea of a false god, so that people, when I come, are more tempted to go into the heavenly realm. So therefore, Christianity doesn't matter, but it does matter because it's the reason why people get there. And likewise with the pyramids, it doesn't matter the reason why they built the pyramids, but what does matter is why God did it, and that was to create something that was going to still be standing and lasting when I'm here now. And it's also a good tourist attraction. So I feel like God's reasons and the ants' reasons, or they're like human ants back then. That's how I see them. I don't see them as being intelligent, but yeah, to have the belief that you can go back time and have a life in that past time, is crazy, because that's almost like saying that your level of intelligence now is the same as your level of intelligence back then. Now, I know there might have been some people even back then that were living their third. Well, really, when you're talking about the pyramids, I think there might have been some that were on their third life even back then, but it probably would have been very, very few. Um, maybe R. Kelly was living his third life, because I felt like he was quite high up on the ranking of the Gaza pyramids. So I think he was living his third life even back then, and therefore, hence why he had the the position that he was in, because most of them were living their first life. Although I feel like most were living their first life, but weren't actually able to take in that much information. Hence, they weren't smart. These people weren't smart, and because they weren't having good education, they weren't smart at all. Like, if you're living your first life now and you have really good education, you could be a lot smarter and you have a lot more potential of getting to a certain level of intelligence. Whereas if you don't have all of that, then you're basically like a child in Africa that has nothing, and therefore your intelligence level is going to be fairly low. Because of the lack of opportunities. But yeah, this video was interesting because even though I don't believe most of the things this guy was saying, he was talking about the spirit soul of the animals, and he said that this owner was very, very poor, was not, spent a huge chunk of her pension money on helping this dog. This dog had, I don't know what he needed to have surgery. He didn't say why. And it was $13,000, and the dog ended up dying after 6 months. And he was saying that when the dog dies, the dog gets a life review. The dog understands everything. The dog, knows what its owner did for him and how much he spent. No, bullshit. That is not true. The dog has no clue. All the dog knows is how much suffering it went through, what it enjoyed, what it didn't enjoy, what it thought was worth it, what it thought wasn't worth it. And I feel like when a person dies and an animal dies, they all get assessed on how much hurt they've received, how much suffering they've gone through, how much bad negative energy they've gone through because of other people doing horrible things to it. And these are the things they remember, but they don't remember it. It's not them. It's not the soul themselves that remember it. It's the matrix that sees into it and assesses it. And I think by him believing that the dog knows, and the dog, I think he's confusing the spirit with the dog. He's confusing the world's spirit or God's spirit with the dog. And no, the dog, I think just is in pause mode until it comes back. But the higher spirit can see how much suffering the dog has gone through. But the dog spirit, the spirit is smart, and the spirit also knows why did it go through this. If a dog is really suffering and needs to be put down because it's suffering, if you're going to spend £10,000 to make it live longer, and yet all it's going to do is spend its days like looking sad, looking depressed, looking like it wants to die, and you're forcing it to live, you're actually going to be receiving bad karma. you could see you spending a huge chunk of your portion, your pension money on the dog. You can see that as you helping the dog and you wanting to do everything for the dog. But the Matrix is actually going to see it as a very selfish thing. You know, you're not doing this for the dog because the dog is suffering. You're doing this because you don't want to lose something that is suffering. But by doing this, you're not being smart and you're not seeing that actually you have just made the dog suffer for a long period of time. Okay, there are different scenarios, which is maybe the operation works, maybe the dog is no longer in pain, maybe the dog dies for some other completely different cause, and but it really appreciates, you know, being alive for that 3 months. And so I feel like when an animal is assessed, this is the sort of thing that's assessed on, you know, if you did have an extended life because someone helped you, what was that life like? You know, I can imagine there are people that have been in a coma and have maybe they've come out of a fire or something and their body is all burnt and shriveled up, and they could have died, but the doctors were forcing them to be alive. Why? Because they could. You know, this is, if they wake up from a coma that they should have died from, to find that their body is all burnt and they're never going to be able to have a decent life. You know, you are going to be putting that person through so much trauma, so much heartache, so much. I mean, it's going to make them a better person in a way. So there's good in that. You know, they're going to realize that it's not about looks. It's they're going to be hating life. They're going to be hating God. They're going to be hating everything, and you should not do that. You can talk for people when they can talk. You know, I know the Cher, who's the angel of reincarnation. I saw an advert about her going through, you know, problems and health problems because of age, which is something that a lot of people go through. And you know, it's sad, and I don't want to believe that I'm hoping it's not that bad. But she has a ability to talk, hence she has an ability to decide, is this too much for her? Can she cope with it? You know, you look at the positive sides. You know, you get to spend longer with your family. You get to spend, if you've got a nice big house or if you've got luxuries, you know, you can enjoy the luxuries. You know, you don't know where you're going to go next. And if living through the pain or just taking lots of paracetamols, you know, if this is going to be worth it, then if you can speak and if you can talk, then it's your choice. You know, it's not up to me. I know Ozzy Osbourne has also gone through some health problems, and for both of them, it is not up to me to say when they should die. You know, I know there's going to be a big awakening coming soon, so it might be worth pushing through a lot of pain just to see how this awakening happens and to see, you know, so you have a better sense of what's going to happen, you know, next, you know, what's going to happen. You know, something exciting is going to happen. Okay, it might not be exciting for everyone, or they'll think it's exciting, but they'll think it's exciting for the wrong reasons. But yeah, if you want to push through the pain to just find out what happens next, and you know, then you're gaining something. You're gaining something from the pain, and because animals and people in comas, they can't speak. You know, other people have to speak for them, and therefore other people need to ask the question, are you doing this for them, or are you just doing this for you? You know, if a dog has lost both its two legs and it is fairly old, you know, maybe putting that body down so that it can be reincarnated and get a new body with two working legs, you know, maybe that is what's best for the dog. And therefore putting it through extremely expensive surgeries might not actually be the best option. You know, I'm really against the idea of massive surgeries that are expensive. You know, I think if GPs didn't have to have, if animal doctors didn't have to have 7-year courses and just had 3-year courses based on a specific animal, say if you want to be a cat doctor or a dog doctor, you know, you can't just, right now, how I believed it was, you know, you can't just have a cat doctor degree or a cat or a dog doctor degree. You have to know about all the animals, and I think because of this, they have to go through huge long training, and they have to charge more when they finally get it. And therefore, I feel like there should be ways of making things cheaper. But at the same time, if making things cheaper is just going to encourage people to force animals to live when they're clearly suffering and clearly going through daily problems and are not going to be helped, you know, I feel like the part of the assessment that the animals go through is to determine whether or not they were happy with that. You know, if you have problems, say if you have a dog that has a missing leg or something, but if that dog was given to a human that also has a missing leg, you know, that bond between you is great. You know, I've seen this. There's blind people adopting blind cats or something just similar, just to feel like they have a similarity, and I feel like this bond is actually quite nice. And you know, you've got a missing leg, I've got a missing leg, and therefore the bond is a lot stronger, and these cats are happy to be alive in this situation. So sometimes there are cases where And also they get a lot more love. If a dog doesn't have a leg or it is in some sort of, they actually receive a lot of, I've heard of some humans that actually have gone as far, it's crazy, but has gone as far as removing a limb just so they can get support and help and love and attention from others, which is a terrible thing to damage yourself so that you get attention from people. But I feel like some of this might actually be done because this is things that have happened to animals. Animals have had terrible things happen to them but have been helped and then get so much love and so much attention, and they actually like the love and attention. And that's not a bad thing, because if that's what they are choosing, if you can see an animal that's had a missing limb or something, and it looks happy and it looks excited and it loves the attention it's getting, then you're doing a good thing for it. But if they just look miserable, like they just don't want to be alive, then it's not worth spending the money, and you're just being stupid, and you're going to be assessed negatively for that. So I feel like that's something important that I wanted to say. As a human, you can choose; as an animal, you can't. But you shouldn't just keep someone alive because you can't bear the thought of leaving them. Because if you know that they won't want to wake up in the condition that they are in, then it would be better not to put them through that. And I would not want to do that. I would not want to. Um, if I get half die in a fire and then find that I'm woken up half paralyzed, I would not want to go through that. It would be a horrible experience. I don't like people enough. I don't give a shit about people enough. So to think that I'm going to spend the rest of my life relying on people to feed me and do basic things like this, that there'd be nothing worse than having to wake up and do that. And therefore it does depend on the person. Some people like having someone to rely on them. Some people like being in a bed and just doing stuff online, and therefore and having attention by people bringing them food. I do like the bringing the food part, but I don't want to just, the idea that I can't get out of bed, like literally can't, that is awful. The idea that I can't get out of bed because I just feel tired is different to the idea that I can't get out of bed because I physically can't. And therefore, if someone's in a coma and they're going to wake up with lots of problems, the person who's closest to them should make the decision on whether or not they would want to wake up in the condition that they are in, knowing that. But then again, I do know that sometimes doctors can be wrong. There are some people who said that, doctors have told them that they'll never walk again. 6 months later, they're walking again and everything's fine. So I do know that sometimes doctors get things wrong. So sometimes it is good to wait and see what happens, try and help them, see, are they actually paralyzed? Are they not? Maybe they will be paralyzed when they first wake up in the coma, but maybe 6 months later, everything will be fine and they'll go back to normal. So it's good to see. You have to base it on their life. If someone's already suicidal, if someone's tried to commit suicide many times and have failed, and this time they've half succeeded, only now their body is completely damaged, you have to accept that they want to die, and it's not good to keep them alive on life support when death was clearly their choice. So that's just things I need to say.